Anybody who's into cars knows what a B7 Audi RS4 is. I don't even need to explain it. V8 monster. A lesser known variant of the A4 is this, the B7 DTM version. They only ever built 2,500 of them, around about 400 making their way to the UK, and you can probably count on one hand the amount that are available here in the Republic of Ireland. But what is the DTM version all about? The Deutsche Tourenwagen Masters was essentially the reason. 2005, Audi started winning lots of touring championships in Germany, and to celebrate, they made this car. Like a lot of S-lines and R-lines in 2025, it wasn't just a trim spec. There were actual key differences in the car. It was still the 2-litre turbo petrol engine, 220 brake horsepower, permanent quattro, whereas the RS4 has a bias towards the rear axle, and lots of grip, a lowered suspension, Recaro interior seats, carbon fibre splattered all over the vehicle. It was quite different at the time. I reviewed things like Audi RS5s where carbon packs cost an eye-watering amount of money, but there was carbon on the lower splitter, the boot spoiler, and splashed towards the interior of the car. And to the untrained eye, that might look like an S-line badge, but it's actually DTM. On the lower part of the bumper, there's also a different style body kit, so it does, to the trained eye at least, look a little bit different. This, of course, is my first classic review, essentially, on the channel, and thanks to your feedback, and lots of you said you'd love to see this kind of stuff, this is some of what I'm going to do on the channel from now on. So if you have a car you'd like featured, knobbyoncars@gmail.com, send me an email and we might be able to feature it on the channel. This particular car in the video today has drilled discs, but cross-drilled rotors were standard on DTMs with 18-inch alloy wheels, so you could daily drive it. These particular alloys, I remember trying to price them up as an optional extra on an Audi A3. They were ridiculous money, so to get them as standard on this car adds to the kind of sleeper nature of it. The car then, 20 brake horsepower up on a standard 2-litre turbo quattro in this version of the A4. Very subtle around the back. The towing hook in red is one giveaway that it's slightly different. Carbon fibre on the boot as well. This particular vehicle has been debadged. There would have been the 4 rings here and 2-litre turbo here, but I think quattro on this side of the vehicle. But stealthy, sleepery, very subtle, and that's what I like about it. Back in 2007, brands didn't put Recaro seats in the front of cars and leave standard ones in the back. The accountants have pretty much seen to that in this day and age, but there was full Recaro throughout the vehicle. A little bit of Alcantara, a little bit of leather. In fact, Audi even put carbon fibre on the ashtray cover. These days, they charge you for nets on the back of the seats. How different times were. And for those of you too young to remember, if you're wondering what these things are for, they even had keep fit windows. How novel. By the way, if you like watching this kind of content and you want to see more of it, please do support the channel. Don't skip the ads. It makes a massive difference. Subscribe if you're not already, and you might consider liking the video if you enjoy today as well. When we dive into the front of the DTM A4, we realise how good we had it at the time. This lovely steering wheel has been retrofitted to the car. I'm thinking it's from the RS4. There was a half Alcantara suede standard wheel with some leather needles and actual dials, more carbon fibre throughout the tops of the really well put together and decent quality plastics. This stuff was set up to last, and you can just tell by looking at it. More carbon fibre around the ashtray area, the gear lever, a leather covered armrest. Again, these Recaro seats with the extenders down below just keep you nice and snug. They're electrically adjustable, and this has been slightly tweaked with the aftermarket head unit, but you could get a double kind of design with climate down below and then full nav. Audi actually offered a pixelated nav with a DVD player that just gave you slight guidance in the center binnacle, but then had audio. So some people would have obviously retrofitted the double unit, but in things like the RS4, you would have got that as standard. When you look around though, it's just so well put together. Bose sound system also included in this car. Anyway, we've spoken enough about what it looks like and how it feels. We need to go for a drive. So while there was a different exhaust on the DTM, pretty sure this has had an aftermarket exhaust fitted. It doesn't overly intrude in the cabin, especially when you're not on anywhere near full chat. It's a very, I would say, quiet enough car to drive. And do you know what? By modern standards, still feels very, very good. I'm used to testing brand new cars all the time, and this car, which is approaching 18 years now, just feels very, very tight. There is a lot of low down torque, as is by the nature of this type of engine, which is great because you're never really looking for power. It's a 6-speed manual gearbox. You could only get the DTM in a manual box. Automatic was just not a thing. What I loved about the Golf GTI of this era was that you could easily see 70 miles an hour in second gear. This car also has that revvy nature to it, with just so much low down torque straight away. Comparing it to something like an S2000 or anything with a Honda badge of the same era, it just required so much more winding up to extract that power. This was just a more usable car at any sort of speed. It's remarkable how well insulated the cabin is. Noise over the A-pillars is very, very limited. It's hard to sit behind the wheel of this thing and feel like we've gone backwards a little bit. It just keeps on pulling well beyond 5,000-6,000 revs. Brakes are great. Get the odd little blip back off the throttle, but you would never for a million years think that this car has 160,000 kilometers on it. It just doesn't feel it. I do like the noise from that exhaust as it grips nicely into a corner, stretches legs, just keeps on giving. Never actually driven an RS4, but that's now on my list. So if you have one of them, feel free to get in touch and we can talk. I mean, you can just imagine how comfortable this thing is on a German autobahn. The grip is so good. Wow. Lovely progression, a car that you can really shift in. Just super impressive in how it moves and how it handles and how planted it feels. And I do love that engine note. It's really nice through that exhaust. So stable. I think one area that the car is noticeable and how much technology has changed with engines, even the Mark 7 Golf R, any sort of fun on this car induces maybe 15-16 litres per 100 kilometers. Golf R, despite having more power, would still be a little bit more efficient. And then jump forward to cars of more power by today's standards, and you should easily be able to sort of see 8 litres per 100 kilometers. I won't say half of this car, but not far off it. Emissions and things have obviously changed how frugal modern engines need to be. Do they rev like this? Do they have that sound more often than not? No. And there is a certain satisfaction with this car that you know you're driving something that just won't really be around on Irish roads. It's a bit of a unicorn, especially in a country the size of ours. And I love then when you're just doing the normal stuff, it just feels like a regular A4. But you know that there's a few extra horses under that right foot should you need them. And I can totally imagine an owner of this car just doing a long journey and feeling pretty good when they get to the end of it. I'm absolutely in no doubt that the RS4 will be a much better driver's car, a much bigger animal, pretty much twice the power, to be honest with you. But that car comes with serious running costs compared to something like the A4 DTM. So this is like a just right version. without the baggage might be a good way of looking at it. Still plenty of usable power, but just not an RS4 at the same time. If I was to be super critical of the DTM, I could say the Audi S3 engine with 265 brake horsepower would have been a nicer unit to be under here. Still though, 220 brake horsepower, permanent quattro, not a bad combination. A Golf GTI at the time, for example, is putting out 197 by comparison. Was this Audi at their finest in the A4, however? When you look at the modern ones, the interior, still not a rattle in this. Recaro stood up so well, you wouldn't really know there's 160,000 kilometers on this car. Have you had this era? Or what do you think of Audi at that time, and indeed of the DTM? And hopefully you've enjoyed this slightly different angle on Nobby on Cars in one of our first classic reviews. This actual car is for sale. I reckon about 14 grand might swing it if you're interested. So if you are, nobbyoncars@gmail.com. I can put you in touch with the owner. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.